It is raining. Let's go inside. We are making 2.4 kilowatt from the garage roof, 380 watts from the tilt system, and we've got 47 amps outside. Guys, welcome back to the off-grid garage here in rainy, cold Australia. Yes, it is. I have like 20 degrees only. It's raining the whole morning already. What I would call mush weather. Wet and cold and usually not great for solar. But in these conditions, as you have just seen, 3 times more power than I would usually do when we had the sun out. So, I like this shit. Well, there is hopefully nothing boom today. I just like this t-shirt. It's from my friend Average Joe. I'll link his channel down below. So my friends, a while back I made a couple of videos about the Peter boards. These are the small ESP32 boards which are connecting to all my BMSs here, collecting all the data, combine them and send them up to the Victron system. And these Peter boards connecting via TTL to the old style JK BMS or the JBD BMS up here in the shelf. But they are sending all the information via CAN. So all my batteries here acting like one big battery communicating with CAN communication back to my Victron system. And this would be exactly the same if you would connect them to your inverter. And then this big huge BMS here controls the charge voltage, the charge current and also the discharge current. And we can use these Peter boards here to control these values, to change the charge voltage and also the charge and discharge current. And some of you have complained that this is a pretty expensive solution actually. It is about $100 to $150 per BMS you have to spend additionally, but it is also a plug and play solution. Peter will pre-configure all these boards for you and you just plug them into your BMS, connect them to your Wi-Fi and you are done. And we also know these Peter boards are connecting to the Home Assistant system as well. Yeah, providing you with all the details down to a cell level voltage. And because these boards are using the CAN protocol to talk back to your inverter, it's a very safe and reliable connection. All the data updates every few seconds. And you can use this data in Home Assistant then to make your own automation, control systems, whatever you like. This is also perfect for setting up alarms. Yeah, if one of these 48 cells has a too high or too low voltage, you can trigger an alarm and Home Assistant will send you a message on your mobile phone. The same with overcurrent or in an over or under temperature situation. And I'm using the Peter boards now for over 6 months. Super reliable. They never missed a beat since the installation. Although I must admit I have broken 2 of them. Yeah, but this was more my own fault. Because as you know, here on the channel I'm testing stuff. And sometimes I'm trying to go to the max and also out of the spec a bit, just to see and explore what will happen. And so I did with these boards and 2 of them broke. But this was entirely my own fault. Under normal circumstances this will not happen. So anyway, back at that time when I made these videos, some of you have suggested, well, there are other solutions out there which are free of charge, or you need only to spend a fraction of the money to buy this hardware and all the software is for free on GitHub. And some solutions are even completely free because they don't need any additional hardware. While all this is true, I had a look at these solutions and I must admit there is a lot of tinkering, a lot of building and scripting and flashing and connecting and downloading, and this is probably not really comparable with the Peter boards because, as I said, these are plug and play devices, while the other solutions are more for people who have half a degree in hardware and software engineering and also programming. But after looking around, I may have found a free alternative to the Peter boards though. It is a pure software solution and you need to have Home Assistant for that, because this add-on runs as an integration in Home Assistant. And at the beginning I was very skeptic about this solution, but I followed the instructions, downloaded, installed it on Home Assistant, configured it. It was very easy and didn't need any scripting or something. Yeah, and then it was time to test this whole thing out. And probably this is now where the circle closes with the network cabinet we have installed a couple of videos ago. And people were asking, Andy, why do you show us Linus tech tip videos here? How to install a network cabinet with a PoE switch, running cables to your Wi-Fi bridge and everything. Well, the reason to install this network cabinet was not only to get rid of all this network cabling clutter here. But also I needed to have the Home Assistant server running in the garage, because this solution I want to show you now needs Bluetooth access to your BMSs. And when the Home Assistant server, this little NUC computer we have installed in there, when this one was running inside the house, of course, the distance from the house to the garage is far too high to make any Bluetooth connection at all. So I had to have a solution here where I can control and monitor Bluetooth devices inside the garage while the Home Assistant server is in the house. And I tried this Smlight, this SLZB-06M. This is like an antenna you plug into your network, and then it connects to Bluetooth, Wi-Fi or Zigbee devices on the other location. So this is like a remote Bluetooth antenna, and it works a treat. With this device plugged into the garage and the Home Assistant server inside the house, I had access to all my Bluetooth devices from the house here in the garage. And this is like a $40, $50 device you plug in. So this was the best and cheapest solution I could find, and it worked. Well, unfortunately, it didn't work with the Home Assistant integration I want to show you right now. It just didn't connect. The Home Assistant integration needs a physical Bluetooth device to read all the data from your BMS. And because the Smlight was a bridged device through your network, the integration does not recognize this as a valid Bluetooth device. So it didn't work. It connected to the Ruby tags, to the LED lights here. You could see all my other Bluetooth devices here in the garage, but it would not work with this Home Assistant integration. So the only solution was to give up on this project or swap the devices around. Have the Home Assistant server here running in the garage and have this Smlight Ethernet bridge running in the house, connecting to all my Zigbee and Wi-Fi devices there. And this is exactly what I did. And you have seen the installation of the Home Assistant server in this little network cabinet up there. So this is now where Home Assistant lives. And I've got the Smlight Ethernet bridge to a Zigbee device now running in my house. This only needs a 5-volt power supply and connects all my Zigbee devices there back to the Home Assistant server. Okay, that's a very long intro. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So the system I want to show you today is called Batmon. Not Batman, Batmon. It's battery monitor, obviously. And it's made by a guy or a girl called Fabian. Yeah, let's call him Flap. And it says here, monitor and control various battery management system BMSs over Bluetooth. Yeah, that's a big difference to the Peter boards, because the Peter boards do use physical cable connection to your BMS and also back to your system via CAN. This one uses a Bluetooth connection. This add-on reads the BMS and sends sensor data through MQTT to Home Assistant. Using Bluetooth on the Home Assistant host system, it does not need any additional hardware. No USB, no serial, no RS485, no CAN, nothing else. Just this integration into your Home Assistant, and you have to have the MQTT integration running as well. The features: uses Bluetooth low energy for wireless communication, captures state of charge, current, power, individual cell voltages and temperatures, monitor multiple devices at the same time. And this actually was what got my attention. Energy consumption meters, integrates with Home Assistant energy dashboard, controls the BMS charging and discharging switches. Home Assistant MQTT can write to influx, whatever that all is. And here, very interesting, supported devices. JKBMS, the JK02 protocol, but this integration also works with the brand new JK04 protocol, I think, which is being used for the JK inverter BMS. I have successfully connected this integration to some of my inverter BMSs from JK, and it works the same as for the old style JK BMSs. It also reads with Daly BMSs, with the JBD, Jabata, Xiaoxiang and Overkill Solar BMSs, the AND BMS, Supervolt BMS, whatever that is, SOK BMSs, and it also connects to the Victron Smart Shunt. And then it explains here how to install this installation. It is very, very straightforward. And here's the configuration explained and how this all works together then. So once you have Batman installed, the basic configuration in Home Assistant is very easy because you have only 3 options to configure. Start on boot. That means as soon as you start Home Assistant, this integration will start as well. Makes sense. You've got a watchdog. If the integration crashes, it restarts it automatically. And you also have an auto update button, which I have ticked as well. Yeah, at the moment, light is green, it is running. The actual configuration to connect to your single BMSs is also very straightforward. You basically type in the address to your BMS. You tell the integration what kind of BMS you have, a JK, a JBD. Yeah, type can be JK, JBD, and Daly, Supervolt, SOK, Victron, or dummy. And you can also set an alias name for your battery. If you don't do this, it takes over the Bluetooth name what your BMS has anyway. And I did another entry here for another JK BMS, which is my battery number 3. So basically what it does, it connects to this old JK BMS via Bluetooth and this newer JK BMS via Bluetooth as well. Then you can set different options here, which are all explained on the GitHub page. And if we have a quick look in the log files here, this is also very interesting. The integration does a Bluetooth discovery scan. So it basically scans the environment for all available Bluetooth devices and puts them in the list for us here with the MAC address of the device and the name. Of course, we won't be able to connect to the Big Shed solar charge controller here, or to the Raspberry Pi, or to the Phoenix inverter. But you can discover here the battery number 2, the battery number 3. There's our sodium battery, which has a JBD BMS. Yeah, the Smart Shunt is here. There's a QSO battery, 12 volt, 100 ampere hour. The Basin 12 volt, 100 ampere hour battery. So these are all the 12 volt batteries I have here on the floor. And this was one of my main interest for this integration, to connect to all my 12 volt batteries. Because at the moment, I'm doing it like this. Go into the JK BMS app, select the battery we want to connect to, wait for it to connect, and then we can see all the cell voltages here and also can see all the settings we have set in this BMS. And if you want to connect to the other battery, we need to select battery number 3, which is the bottom battery, wait for it to connect, have a look at all the cell voltages here, go into the settings. Yep, that all looks good so far. And I had to do exactly the same with the Overkill BMS app.
So go into the QSO 12 volt 100 ampere hour battery, have a look what the state of charge is. 51%, yep, that's all good. Go back into devices, wait for it to refresh. What about the QSO? What about this battery, the 12 volt 230 ampere hour battery? Yep, it is on 43%, still alright. And the Basin 12 volt 100 ampere hour battery, connect to it. So 45%, perfect, that's good. And here's the good power to 80 ampere.
So can you see how cumbersome this is? How long it takes to check on all these batteries? You need to have your mobile phone with you. You need to log into every single battery, check the status, check the voltages, check the settings, state of charge, temperatures, everything. It takes forever. Yeah, the Peter boards taking some of this work away because they are connecting to the battery shelf batteries and give me all the details in Home Assistant, so I can see everything to the cell level in Home Assistant. But with all these mobile batteries, the Basin battery, the QSO batteries, the Müller battery, and the Google Power battery here as well as the 50 ampere hour sodium battery. I don't know what the state of charge of them is, or the temperature, or the single cell voltages. I have to use my mobile phone, be here in the garage, and log into every single battery from time to time to check if they need a bit of recharge, or if I have used them, how full are they? I need to log in. Wait, where's my mobile phone? Oh, it's inside the house now. Damn it, I'll check it tomorrow. Forget about it. 4 weeks later I check, oh, the battery is still on 5%. That's not good. Because these days, some people have more than one battery at home, if you believe it or not. And instead of doing this manual login, log out to all these batteries here, I want to use this integration here to scan for all my batteries and give me all the information in one dashboard in Home Assistant, so I can see in one glance what kind of state they are in, what temperature they have, the voltage and everything. So, and further down here in the log file, you can see it connects actually to the battery number 3 already, and it reads all the voltages of all the cells. So you've got 16 individual cell voltages in here. The temperature is coming in from all the 4 temperature sensors. Yeah, and then it repeats, and sometimes it cannot. Normal connect failed, resource not ready. Connecting with scanner, sometimes it cannot connect to your devices because of some issues. Or it even says there's no device found, and then it connects back to your batteries again. So, as you can already see from this log file here, this integration is not perfect. Yeah, it has some issues. And because it is using Bluetooth connection, a wireless connection to all these devices here, you can see how many Bluetooth connections would be possible for this device. It is not as reliable as the PIDA boards in terms of communication with your BMS, not by a long shot. While we can use the PIDA boards to control our system, yeah, it uses the CAN communication to connect to your inverter, and it controls the charging, discharging, the voltage, the temperatures, everything. It controls it. It tells the inverter to stop charging, to start charging, to slow down, whatever you program. This integration here, I would not recommend using for this purpose. Because depending on how many Bluetooth connections you have in your area, there might be issues and the device may not be able to connect to your BMSs. And you imagine you are close to an overvoltage protection situation in one of your BMSs. Yes, the BMS would turn off itself, but it doesn't report this to the inverter. So one of your battery banks will shut down and the inverter keeps pushing hundreds of amps into your system, even one battery is already down. And this is just because this integration is not able to communicate with your BMS at the moment because it's a wireless connection. It is not reliable. We have set to pull these BMSs every 10 seconds and publish the data every 15 seconds. Just come with me for a moment. I want to show you something. Okay, I've just removed the cover from the middle shelf battery. This is one of the JKs it connects to, battery number 2. And as you know, if you log in with your mobile phone to any of the JK BMSs, it does a beep beep as a confirmation you're logged in. That was it. There was the other one. There it is again. That's the other one. That's the other one. Battery number 3. Battery number 2. So, as you could hear, the frequency this integration pulls the data from these BMSs is very infrequent. Definitely not 10 seconds as we have said it, right? And only for testing purposes, I made this little dashboard here, exactly, yeah. So, here we've got two dashboards next to each other. Both are for the middle shelf battery for this old style BMS. On the left, the data is coming from the PIDA board via TTL and CAN communication. And here on the right, it is the same BMS we are reading out via Batmon and Bluetooth connection. And because we are reading the same BMS, one with a cable connection, the other one with a wireless Bluetooth connection, it should show us the same data, right? Exactly 100% the same. It is the same source where this data is coming from. So here at the top, I added some information when the last time was all this data was updated. So 3 seconds for the PIDA board, 9 seconds for the Batmon integration. Unfortunately, this is not a live counter, so we have to actually click on this one here, and we can see this Batmon integration has not pulled any data for more than 1 minute now. While here the PIDA boards do this all the time in a few seconds. And you can see it resets frequently. It's only a few seconds old, and then it gets new data from the PIDA boards, from the CAN communication. So it's a pretty much a live update of all your data of your battery. While here with the Batmon integration, we are already 2 minutes away from the last update for this integration. So you can see here the current 14 amps. This is real time with the PIDA boards, while this one shows us still 11.8 amps with the Batmon integration. 3 seconds ago, now it has updated. See, 14.2, 14.2, both are showing the same value now. And let's see, 18 seconds, 19, 21. You may be able to hear the beep of the JK BMS when it updates. There it did. You could hear the beep beep So as you can see, there's a big difference from the actual frequency. These two different methods are pulling the data from your BMS. Yeah, one is within a few seconds, the other one, we don't know. So, and if there is no data pulled for 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes, it will show unavailable. Yeah, these are the 300 seconds we have set in the configuration of the Batmon integration. But if it doesn't get any new data for over 5 minutes, it shows unavailable. Because usually you don't know how old your data is unless you click on it. See, this one is over a minute old already again. While here our max cell voltage is only 7 seconds old. And I've tried to match this data up from the Peter boards to the Batmon integration. So we've got the total voltage here. We've got the state of charge, the battery temperature, the breaker temperature, where I have put in the second temperature sensor of these BMSs. We've got a max voltage and min voltage, a cell voltage delta, and also the balancer. Well, the Peter board shows us if the balancer is on or off. The integration shows us actually a balanced current. And then we've got these two gauges here for battery current and battery power. Obviously, they're showing different values. But if we click on the battery power, for example, of the Peter board, yeah, we can see this graph here. And if we do the same and click on the battery power gauge, we can see this graph here, and these graphs look actually identical. For all these graphs, it is not really important if you pull your battery every couple of seconds or if you do this every 5 minutes. You still get the same graph. You can still get the same information, the same history of all your data. So from this perspective, the Batmon integration is great. You're still getting the same data. And, as you may have seen, you get even more data than with the Peter boards. State of charge, for example, this one breaks it down to 2 digits after the decimal point, while the Peter integration reads only the full number. The same for the temperature, 18 degrees, while here I have a breakdown, 17.95, 18.55. I'm not sure why the Peter board doesn't read these information, because obviously they are available via Bluetooth, but not via TTL. There could be a difference, I don't know. And then it gets very interesting about the controls. So in the Peter board, as you may remember from these old videos, we can disable and enable charging, for example. Yeah, this disabling charging does not mean the BMS or the battery is not charging anymore. It only tells the inverter to reduce the charging current by whatever we have set down here. This is what the Peter board does. If I set this here to 50 amps, the inverter will now reduce its charging current by 51 amps. But the battery is still charging, of course. Yeah. The Peter board tells the inverter what to do. It doesn't interfere with your BMS. The BMS is a safety device, and you probably should not have any third-party integration or hardware or something interfering with your BMS. This is probably like opening one of these circuit breakers here and trying to make it different or better or put an LED in or something, you know. It's a safety device. It should stay as it is. And I think a bit about this with the BMS as well. This is your breaker. If something goes wrong, current, temperature, voltage, it disconnects your circuit, it disconnects your battery. So, and this leads us to the controls for the Batmon monitor. Because if I toggle this switch here, charging enabled, you will probably see that it bounces back. Again and again. As you can see, the function is not sticky because, well, we haven't pulled the integration for 2 minutes now. So the data is not really up to date. And let's see. I'm still unable to set this switch here. See, and these are all limitations you have to live with such an free solution here. Come on. Ah, here we go. Okay, I got it now. So as you could see, immediately the amps are going to 0 because these two switches here, charging enabled and discharging enabled, are actually physically turning off your MOSFETs in your BMS. Unlike the Peter board, which only tells the inverter, hey, slow down, this one turns off your BMS. Now you could say, well, this is actually better because if you toggle this switch here, this is like a emergency stop, turns off charging and discharging whenever there's an emergency. In the case of an emergency, as you have seen, it takes a few minutes to actually toggle the switch. So it cannot be used in an emergency situation anyway, because it's so delayed. But this is the main difference between the Peter board, which only tells your inverter to stop charging, and the Batmon Bluetooth integration here, which physically terminates the connection to your BMS then. I'll try to turn it back on. It's the same shit now again. It won't stick. So it will take a few minutes and you have to keep doing it until it actually works again. Yeah, okay, whatever. So, and this shows us another concern we should have with all these BMSs coming from China. To turn off your MOSFETs in your BMS, you usually have to go into your phone app. You have to log into the BMS. And to change any parameters, you usually have to provide a PIN, a passcode, a password, some sort of safety code. And then you are able to turn off charging or discharging or change parameters. Well, as you have seen in the configuration of the Batmon Bluetooth integration in Home Assistant, I only put in the MAC address of the device I want to connect to and what type of BMS it is. I did not provide any passwords, any codes, nothing. So this is the Peter board reading my middle shelf battery, right? Gives us all the information down here, and it also reads the unknown, yeah. And it also reads the password for my BMS, yeah, which is 6 times 1 in this case. And if we have a look in battery number 2 in MQQT, so this gives us all the information here as well. The same as the Peter board, but here there is no password. It doesn't read the password in clear text. So how is it able to turn off and turn on the MOSFETs without me providing the password for it? Does it stick? Come on. So there is a bit of a safety concern, and especially because the BMS is a safety device. Yeah, this is your breaker. You won't give a stranger access to your breaker panel in your house, do you? Oh, it's now back on. Now it is sticky again. 1.4 amps coming in. We can see the Peter board is updating already, while the Batmon Bluetooth integration is not. And this is on my list to discuss with JK as well. If we cannot have a function inside the BMS to turn off Bluetooth, and then the only communication option would be through a computer. But at least you don't have this backdoor in all your BMSs anymore. I mean, for me, it's not a big issue here because I'm living rural. There's no neighbors around me which could potentially receive a Bluetooth signal from the garage here. But if you live in a denser area, there's a good chance that someone walks past your house with a Bluetooth scanner and say, oh, well, there's a JK BMS or a JBD BMS, and logs in and changes all the parameters to unsafe values. And apparently it doesn't need the password for that. All right, let's go back into settings, add-ons, Batman, configuration, and add another 2 or 3 batteries here. So here I'm adding now the JBD, the sodium battery, which sits in the corner over there. And I'm also adding the Google Power 12 volt battery, the 280 ampere hour battery. So what I basically did, I copied this Bluetooth discovery the integration does into a text file. And I now can just copy the MAC address of the battery I want to connect to. So JBD, I gave them a name. We go down here to save. It restarts the integration. And then it should give us the data for the sodium and the Google Power 12 volt battery as well. And as you can see at the moment, they are both unavailable because I had taken this one out to show you the basic configuration of this integration. But now, after a while, they should be becoming available again. So the main purpose of this integration for me was to create a dashboard to have access to all my 12 volt batteries. Because I have 7 12 volt lithium batteries with active smart BMSs, and they all should be able to connect to this integration here. Yeah, and with this dashboard, I could see, well, this is the 12 volt 50 ampere hour sodium battery. It has this state of charge, it has this voltage, this current, and this temperature. And the same for the Google Power battery and so on. So I can create my list as I go with all the other batteries. That's the theory behind it. But looking again in the log file now of this integration, you can see there are errors coming up here. Sodium battery error, timeout, waiting for 3 traceback, whatever that all means here, I don't know. There's an error, so it cannot connect to the sodium battery for whatever reason at the moment. We do a refresh, there are more errors coming, and I can't hear the beep anymore for the JK BMS. So obviously the integration is now busy with connecting to the sodium battery and can't, and waits 3 times and tries 3 times or whatever. It actually says here it tries 200 times and it has done it once. Yeah, this may take a while. The Google Power 12-volt battery has now data. So you can see 4 cell voltages and I can see the temperature. So if we go back into our 12-volt dashboard, yeah, we can see it. See, at least we can see the state of charge, the voltage and the current, and the temperature is unavailable for whatever reason. It may populate over time. And this was my initial idea, to have this for my 12-volt batteries, but also for other batteries as well, and don't need the Peter boards anymore. Because this integration reads very similar data from all the batteries as the Peter board does. Here comes 16.1 degrees Celsius. Yeah guys, it is cold here in the off-grid garage. We have only 20 degrees outside. It is still raining. There's no sun today, and I'm glad I'm almost done with this video and can go back inside. Yeah. And now you can hear the beep of the JK BMS as well, so it is actually pulling the data. Yeah, this is just a test dashboard here to see how often the battery actually gets pulled by the integration. And I just used some data here so I can see what the actual time frequencies were. If we go into the history here, here for example, see this gap here? The integration stopped completely and there was no data coming in to Home Assistant anymore. So if there would be an emergency in this time frame, there would be no alarm being sent to my mobile phone. I wouldn't be aware that there's an overvoltage, an overcurrent, an overtemperature situation in one of the batteries because the integration had just stopped. Yeah, see, this is the sodium battery and you can see these gaps here in the curve. And yeah, here you can see it. Look at this curve down here. See all these gaps? This is when the battery got unavailable. So it took the integration actually longer than 5 minutes to pull data from the battery. And you can see the big gap over there. And further down, there's another gap there. There's another gap up there. So it is actually very patchy when you get data and information from the battery sometimes. But this battery is also the furthest away from the Home Assistant system here. And well, quite frankly, you can now say, well, Andy, you put like 6 Faraday cages around your Home Assistant server with a Bluetooth. Yeah, the Bluetooth sits in the NUC computer, which is a case in itself. And then we have this metal case around the NUC computer, which is another Faraday cage. Plus, on top, we have the Wi-Fi access point inside this network cabinet as well. Plus, the USB to Zigbee dongle as well. So there is a lot of frequency shit going on in this cabinet here, but Wi-Fi has no issues to get out. But this Wi-Fi is only for the garage and all the devices are still connecting fine. There's no downside of that. All the Zigbee devices in here connecting as well. And I've tried. I got the sodium battery here right underneath on the workbench and it still couldn't connect. You're still seeing all these gaps in the graph. And this is just when the integration could not communicate with the BMS for whatever reason. It is Bluetooth. Maybe someone was here with a mobile phone or so and disturbed the whole communication. And, well, unfortunately, so far, I cannot establish a communication with the Basin 12-volt 100 ampere hour with the JBD BMS inside. I can also not establish a communication with the Daly BMS inside the Müller Energy battery. The AO lithium does not work either because it doesn't use a JBD BMS. It connects via the Overkill app on your phone, but it's not a JBD BMS. So, I don't know. So, all in total, this whole experiment with the Batmon integration in Home Assistant and connecting to all my batteries here is a bit... Is it a fail? I don't know. It is kind of working, as you have seen. It is a bit patchy, but on the other hand, it gives you all the data you need. Do you need live data? Then this is not for you. Go to the Peter board. If you're happy with the graph and some history of your data, integration may work for you. Okay, my friends, I think so far this video from today showing you this alternative to read your battery data. For either, if you have mobile batteries as I have and they're coming and going in the garage here, then the integration jumps onto them and reads all the information, displays them in a nice display. Well, at least this was one of the intentions, to have the Home Assistant server in here. Some of the BMSs just don't work. Yeah, basically something like this, you know? So again, the Peterboard's pure plug-and-play solution, but needs cabling to all your batteries, which is not possible if you have mobile batteries coming in and out of your location. The Batmon Bluetooth integration and Home Assistant doesn't need any hardware, doesn't need any software. It's free to use if you have Home Assistant already. But as you can see, it has its limitations. And it is not about the Bluetooth signal quality here in the network cabinet. I had the Home Assistant server here on the workbench as well, next to the batteries, and it was the same situation. Very close, very far, somewhere in the middle. It has trouble connecting to the battery sometimes, and is not reliably enough to make this a real competitor to the Peterboards. So again, as a summary, Peterboards are controlling your system reliably. The Batmon integration is only monitoring your system, gives you the information of all your batteries, but it doesn't work reliably enough. Okay guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your amazing support, to all these beautiful people out there who are donating to the channel, becoming a member even. Yeah, I'm dropping a video here and there just for the members. And thank you so much for all your comments and your likes and sharing your videos in forums. This is all very much appreciated, and as you know, it makes these videos possible here. It basically keeps me on the toes. And guys, until the next video when we do something completely different again, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye-bye. During my whole conversation with the camera now, I could not hear any beep from any BMS anymore. I'm sure either the integration has now crashed, or it is not, it is hanging somewhere and trying to connect to one of the batteries. I've tried all these settings and it doesn't really make a difference. Sometimes it works good and you get information every 15-20 seconds or so, and then it takes minutes again. Like with these ones again, see, they're all unavailable again now. And we've got heaps of error messages here in the log file, so it is what it is.